Have you ever wondered if someone is interested in you romantically? Stay tuned to learn how to conduct a relationship reading to answer that question. Hi, everybody. I'm Sue Ellen Clayton. Welcome to my channel where we're learning how to read tarot one card at a time. In today's reading, we'll be using a 5-card spread to help a woman learn if her college classmate is interested in her romantically. I will be using the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, and there is a link below. This reading was requested by one of my viewers, and here's what she wrote. Quote, I am a female, and I have developed feelings for one of my classmates in college who is also a female. At this time, no one is aware of my orientation, and I am uncertain about hers as well. I would deeply appreciate it if you could provide a reading to help me understand whether she might be interested in me romantically and what I could potentially expect from this connection. Unquote. For simplicity's sake, I will call the querent's classmate Quinn. To answer the querent's question, I used a 5-card relationship path spread. Here are the cards I drew. Card number 1 looks at how Quinn sees the querent right now. I drew the reversed Page of Cups. Card number 2 looks at whether Quinn feels a spark or connection. I drew the Magician. Card number 3 looks at what Quinn wants from this connection. I drew the 3 of Pentacles. Card number 4 looks at the influences affecting Quinn's feelings. I drew the reversed Knight of Pentacles. Card number 6 looks at where this relationship could lead. I drew the 9 of Swords. First, let me talk about my first impressions. The first thing I noticed was the 9 of Swords, also known as the Nightmare card, in the position about where the relationship could lead, and I felt just awful. I really didn't want this to be the case, and I actually pulled out my pendulum to see if I should reshuffle again. The answer was no. In case you don't know what a pendulum is, you can see a picture on the screen. It's a weighted object to which you can ask yes, no questions. So I asked if I was supposed to reshuffle and try again, and the answer was no. I have a whole video on how to use a pendulum, which I'll link to below. I also used my pendulum to help determine who each image represented. For instance, I believe that the Page of Cups represented the querent, while the Magician represented Quinn. The pendulum video covers this as well. I always figure out who it is intuitively and then consult my pendulum to see if I was right. My other observation was that we only had one cup card, which represents love and emotion, and it was upside down. So on first glance, these are 2 indications that this might not be the result that the querent wants. The other thing to note is that the querent is gay and she's unsure of Quinn's sexual orientation. So my guess is that Quinn is not gay, and that might be the reason why the relationship will not work out. Now let's look at each card individually and we'll see if I'm correct. Card number 1 looks at how Quinn sees the querent right now. I drew the reversed Page of Cups. In the upright position, the Page of Cups could indicate that Quinn sees the querent as someone who is childlike and a bit of a dreamer. She would have a sense of playfulness and lightness, and also be sensitive and romantic. As a student, she could be creative and artistic, and likely more interested in people and creative pursuits than learning something like math and science. However, the Page of Cups is in a reverse position, so it has the opposite meaning. The reversed Page of Cups can signify someone who is afraid to grow up or spends too much time in a fantasy world. So perhaps Quinn finds the querent or her interest to be immature, and she has a hard time connecting with her in the real world. Quinn might also see the querent as someone who is oversensitive, insecure, or emotionally wounded. She might see the querent as someone who finds it hard to connect with or express her feelings. The reverse Page of Cups can also represent someone who takes life too seriously. I think part of these impressions might be due to the querent hiding her sexuality. The Page of Cups is a stage card, which indicates someone who is acting and pretending to be something they're not. So although we see the Page of Cups looking very fun and flamboyant in the upright position, the querent may actually be very insecure. And I think the difference between how the querent acts and how she feels about herself might be what is confusing to Quinn. The reverse Page of Cups can also signify someone who is naive or too trusting. So Quinn may consider the querent to be gullible or easily deceived. In summary, I think the querent sees Quinn as somebody who is serious, oversensitive, insecure, and has a hard time expressing her emotions. Card number 2 looks at whether Quinn feels a spark or connection. I drew the Magician. The Magician represents Quinn. The Magician is a card about granting wishes. It's also about directing energy from heaven towards manifesting your wishes on earth. So if Quinn felt a romantic spark towards the querent, she would be on a path toward acting on it. One of my favorite parts of the Magician card is the wooden table that contains all of the tools for working on his magic. Here we see all 4 suits: cups, swords, wands, and pentacles. The Magician shows that Quinn has the ability to build a relationship with the querent if she feels a spark. The lemniscate, which is the figure 8 above her head, means infinite potential. The wand has 2 ends and shows how things can be separated and recombined in a new way. And the white headband above her third eye shows the ability to focus and direct her visions. So Quinn definitely has the potential to move ahead with the relationship if she feels a spark. Looking at the other cards, my opinion is that although Quinn could move ahead if she wanted to, she doesn't want to take the relationship to the next level. Given her strong relationship with the heavens, my guess is that she knows that the querent is gay and she is not. The Magician's white robe indicates innocence, and I don't think Quinn has ever been in a same-sex relationship. I'm not sure if she doesn't want to be or she's just never considered it. In summary, although the Magician has the potential to create a relationship if she wants it, I don't think that Quinn is interested. Card number 3 looks at what Quinn wants from this relationship. I drew the 3 of Pentacles. My first thought when I saw this card was that Quinn wants the querent to be with her in group projects in her college classes because the querent has the skills that Quinn admires. I see the querent as the stonemason on the bench, who is the craftsman and admired by the monk and the nobleman. The stonemason is younger than the other 2 figures, and we established in the reverse page of cups that Quinn viewed the querent as somewhat immature. However, the stonemason is clearly very skilled. We can see that he's carving into stone, which will last for a very long time, using the chisel in his left hand and the mallet in his right hand. In tarot, arches represent beginnings and opportunities. He's also working in front of a partially open door, which signifies that his talent may open doors in the future. It's interesting that these are the only black pentacles in this suit. For instance, compare it to the 8 of Pentacles, where we see a craftsman sitting on a similar bench, but the pentacles are gold. The black color can mean 2 things. They may be a work in progress and will be gold when finished, or it may be that the talents are hidden or not completely appreciated. In this card, we see a lot of gray on the wall and the floors, as well as in the stonemason's tunic and shoes, and the monk's robes. Gray is about neutrality, so it looks like the 3, together, are making very considered decisions without a lot of emotion. Again, this signifies to me that Quinn appreciates the querent's talents, but there isn't any kind of emotional or love connection. So I believe that what Quinn wants from the relationship is access to the querent's considerable talent and work ethic. Card number 4 looks at the influences affecting Quinn's feelings. I drew the reverse Knight of Pentacles. In this case, the Knight of Pentacles represents Quinn. In the upright position, the Knight of Pentacles is loyal, dependable, and hardworking. The Knight of Pentacles is somebody you describe as keeping their nose to the grindstone. It can represent someone who approaches tasks slowly and methodically. He is someone who has a lot of patience and takes the long-term approach because he knows that even boring tasks are important and will pay off in the long run. He's very calm and likes things calm, organized, and predictable. In the reverse position, the Knight of Pentacles can indicate a lack of forward movement. I think that even if Quinn was interested in a romantic relationship with the querent, it would be a very slow process. The Knight of Pentacles doesn't like change and is exceedingly practical. Even if romantic sparks were flying, Quinn would have a hard time changing the trajectory of her life to include a same-sex partner. And she would likely go through all the practical reasons why the relationship wouldn't work out or be beneficial. The Knight of Pentacles is also very focused on the material world. He's busy taking care of his horses and plowing the fields. I don't think that exploring sexuality is much of a priority. This brings me back to the Magician card, where Quinn had the opportunity to create a relationship with the querent and decided not to. She's never considered a same-sex relationship or any other kind of self-discovery. She's definitely preoccupied with work, or in this case, school and being a student. And that brings us back to the Three of Pentacles, where Quinn's work right now is being a college student and wants to be in a group that will excel in their projects. So I think that Quinn is very practical and focused on her work, which in this case is being a college student. She hasn't investigated her sexuality and has always assumed that she is heterosexual. She's not the kind of person to rock the boat, and even if she realized she wanted a same-sex relationship, it would take her a long time to get there. You've made it this far in the video, and I wanted to stop and ask for a favor if you're not already a subscriber, and that is to please hit the subscribe button. It's free for you, and it will also help me to grow this channel. Plus, it means that you won't miss anything. Thanks so much, and if you're already a subscriber, I truly appreciate your ongoing support. Now let's get back to the video. Card number 5 looks at where this relationship could lead. I drew the Nine of Swords. In this case, I believe the Nine of Swords represents the querent. When I started this reading, I was very upset to see the Nine of Swords showing the future of the relationship being so grim. Now that I've read the other cards, I think that this is the right answer. I don't think that the querent would be happy. The black background creates a feeling of total despair. The only other card in the tarot deck that has a completely black background is the Devil. And that's about things in your life that create emotional bondage. Swords represent thoughts, and I think that's what's leading to the querent's despair. One thing to notice about the bed is the carving that shows someone being murdered. Some scholars believe that this carving illustrates the Bible story of Cain and Abel. If you're not familiar with the story, it's about two brothers who made sacrifices to God. Cain got greedy and kept some of the sacrifice for himself, so God preferred Abel's sacrifice. Cain got jealous and killed Abel. The murder weapon in the carving appears to be a bone. I think this speaks to the difficulty of the relationship. The querent would have to fight to get Quinn to love her. I think it would be a big sacrifice for Quinn because she's so entrenched in her routines and ideas. I feel like the querent will lose the battle. Let's talk about the out-of-control thoughts that are keeping the querent awake at night. I think that she's exhausting herself thinking about what's happened in the previous 4 cards. Swords are about communication, and I think she's beating herself up for things she said or didn't say during her conversations with Quinn. Swords have 2 sides and are linked to discovering the truth. This is something else that the querent is trying to do. She's trying to figure out what Quinn really thought of her, as we saw in the Page of Cups. Did Quinn think she was too immature? Was she too serious or too trusting? Was she too insecure or too emotional? What should she have said but didn't? And then we get to the Magician. The querent is trying to determine if Quinn felt a spark. Did the querent just imagine it? Why didn't Quinn act on it? Next, the querent is thinking about what Quinn wanted from their connection. They were in group projects together, as shown in the Three of Pentacles, where Quinn obviously respected her and her talents. Why would Quinn have asked to be in a group with her if she didn't like her? Finally, the querent is wondering why Quinn isn't into her. And we can tell from the reading that hardworking Quinn has been so focused on her work that she hasn't investigated her sexuality. She's also not the kind of person to shake things up. Even if Quinn realized that she wanted a same-sex relationship, it would take her a very long time to get there, and she would likely reject the idea because it's out of the path she expects herself to follow. In summary, this reading looked at whether Quinn was interested in the querent romantically and what she could expect from their connection. And the answer is that I don't think that Quinn has any romantic interest for a couple of reasons. One is shown by the reverse Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is hardworking, extremely practical, and doesn't like change. I don't think that Quinn is looking for any kind of a relationship right now, as it would interfere with her current goal of finishing college. I also don't think that Quinn has even considered a same-sex relationship, And if she did, it would take her a very long time to decide that that is something she wants to pursue. I do think that Quinn admires the querent's talents and skills, as we see in the Three of Pentacles, but that interest is purely practical, as it helps Quinn to reach her goals of successfully completing group projects and passing the class. The Nine of Swords tells us that the relationship will not end well for the querent. She would have to fight to get Quinn to be with her, and the relationship would be tumultuous. This will cause the querent many sleepless nights, as she'd constantly be scrutinizing her thoughts to see if she said the right thing. As a final note, I don't think that the querent's sexuality has much to do with this. I think that Quinn is focused on finishing college and likely has a very practical life path already laid out. At the point that Quinn wants a romantic partner in the future, I think she'll look for a heterosexual partner just because that's more normal. If Quinn did look deeper and decide that she was gay, which are a couple of big ifs, then I think the decision to find a gay partner would take a long time to get to. So I feel like the querent needs to accept Quinn as a platonic friend who might be using her for good grades and look elsewhere for romance. I hope this video will help you with your tarot readings. Please leave a comment if you'd like to share what you've learned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.